fortified castle rising above a medieval bridge in the heart of Italy, with a lively pedestrian zone and history dating back to ancient Rome and earlier. It's a rewarding destination to visit and yet not overcrowded with tourists. Oh, Spoleto, you are a beautiful city, one of the great hill towns of Italy. If it's on a hill, there must be steps, and yes, there are many steps in Spoleto, and also some level lanes in this pedestrian zone at the heart of town. We are going to take you on a walking tour through this delightful historic center, which you can experience during the daytime and after dark when the town comes out for its evening stroll for the classic Italian passeggiata. People of all ages take part in this sociable performance, from the youngest babies in their strollers to the oldest members of the community, some of whom just take it in from the sidelines. Spoleto is located in the region of Umbria, in the center of Italy. You are familiar with Tuscany with its famous capital of Florence, and while Umbria is less well known, it's every bit as beautiful as Tuscany. Spoleto is a small city with an ancient history, enjoying a modern Italian lifestyle. You'll see kids playing football in the street and friendly students. The town is alive with local residents enjoying their compact pedestrian zone, an active gathering place right into the evening. Easy to navigate, just about 500 meters across, with lovely cobblestone lanes and many people out enjoying the atmosphere. Lots of shops and restaurants and beautiful old buildings all around it. Looking down at the main part of Spoleto's historic center with its landmark cathedral and castle, especially the little lanes within that white circle around the upper town that we're going to be walking through in this complete look at Spoleto. We shall enjoy walking along many of those lanes. Spoleto is well known for its monumental attractions, especially the fortress at the top of the hill at the highest point of the city, a castle designed for military and political control of the region. Now it has a museum inside. Behind it is a monumental stone structure. It's a medieval bridge that you can walk across and also has an aqueduct on top. Nearby is the large Romanesque cathedral, richly decorated with art treasures from the Renaissance and the Baroque. The cathedral, fortress, and bridge are three of Spoleto's most fascinating sights. So we're going to start up on top of the hill and work our way down in a complete visit to this wonderful city. Before going inside this fortress, we'll take a walk around behind and have a look at that beautiful medieval stone bridge. You just go past the castle gateway. This walk is the famous Giro della Rocca, and it's really one of the most charming promenades in town. The walkway is level and picturesque. You'll see a charming cafe with inviting outdoor tables. When you walk around the bend, you are going to get a view of one of the largest stone constructions of the ancient age, at Ponte delle Torri. It's a bridge that provided a major access route into the city of Spoleto, and it was also an aqueduct. Ponte delle Torri was built in the 13th century, and the architect built it on top of the foundations of an earlier ancient Roman bridge. This medieval bridge is really an incredible engineering feat. It's 80 meters high above the valley floor, and the bridge spans 230 meters. It's huge. The bridge reaches across the ravine, linking the fortress with the slopes of the Monte Luco hill. On the far end, you see the tower of a smaller fortress. Two columns in the middle are hollow inside. See two small windows for what had probably been the rooms of a guardhouse, and those are the tallest columns reaching down to the stream. You see how it functioned both as a bridge with this walkway and also as an aqueduct on top of the wall, bringing water from the hill into the city. The bridge was damaged by an earthquake in 2016 and closed to the public for repairs and renovations, which lasted for 8 years until 2025. And now, once again, it's open to the public for free, 24 hours a day. The view looking back from Monte Luco Hill is most spectacular, with the bridge in the foreground and the fortress rising up on the hill behind. In addition to appreciating the grandeur of Ponte delle Torri, you will enjoy the beautiful countryside all around it. You're going to see thousands of olive trees covering the hillside. And there are some hiking trails that you can take on the other side of Monte Luco. As you walk back from the bridge towards the castle, be sure to have a look up as you go, and there you will see one of the 6 giant towers located along the wall of the castle, along with some later structures that were added to the outside of the castle. When you come back around in front of the fortress, you'll get more of those beautiful views looking down at the city. Even if you did not go inside the fortress, the views alone make the walk up here worthwhile. But you'll find that going inside this castle is well worth it. We have already walked up the hill to the castle, but if you did not want to make that climb, you could take a series of escalators and an elevator to get up to the top. That is a free service provided by the city of Spoleto. They've got 3 different escalator systems in the old town and this convenient elevator. Even on a day when the sun is shining, conditions can change pretty quickly. Typical of the weather here, sometimes you'll get a little mist or a fog bank rolling through, but they pass quickly. Then we step right into the castle. The fortress towering above Spoleto is really quite a sight to see. It's a castle constructed in the 1360s, and today it's open as a museum of medieval history. It was built by the Pope as part of the campaign to retake the papacy from the Avignon popes. There was a battle going on in the mid-14th century, several different popes all competing for power. The official name of the fortress is Rocca Albornoziana, named after a Spanish Cardinal Albornoz, who was sent here by the Pope in the 14th century to construct the castle. He enlisted the services of Gattapone, a famous architect from Umbria, who came and built the fortress and the bridge behind it. The interior is now a museum with many paintings and sculpture and artifacts of the day. For a while, it had been the residence of the duchy, the governors of the city, and papal legates back in the 15th century, 16th century, and some of the interior displays reflect that period. We'll give you a quick look now at some of the frescoes and artifacts here, most of which date from the 14th through the 17th century. This Byzantine painting has a reliquary on top with some bones of important religious figures, preserved as items of worship. It would have hung in a church. Sarcophagi and tombstones and sculpture also illustrate various religious rituals. This fortress palace resisted many attacks, and it remained well preserved for centuries, but gradually fell into decay, and then in 1817 it was turned into a prison until 1983. And so much of the interior was damaged. But fortunately, it was the major restorations that have brought it back somewhat to its former glory. Now it's the National Museum of the Dukes of Spoleto, and you walk through the 15 halls on both levels, and then outside you can see some of the interesting nearby buildings, along with some more views looking down into the city. From the Rocca Fortress to the Cathedral, it's a 500-meter walk with some nice scenery along the way. Then we'll explore the nearby lanes, leaving the fortress along Via Gattapone and then around the bend to Piazza Campello. Here we've got a small cat colony that lives in this piazza. They're being taken care of by some of the neighbors who provide them with food and attention, and small shelters. There's enough food to share so they get along with each other quite well. There are some benches in this little piazza, so it's a good place to sit, take a break, and watch the cats. The impressive Mascheroni fountain is here, offering drinkable water. In the background, you'll see that piazza next to a charming street that forms a little neighborhood, with a collection of medieval and Renaissance buildings. Via Aurelio Saffi has several arches across it, including one with a medieval loggia at the top. This street is almost like a little piazza. It's quite level and it's wide, and it's contained at both ends by these beautiful arched buildings. This leads us to one of the great sights of the city, the Cathedral Santa Maria Assunta, with its magnificent Romanesque facade. This monumental staircase descends from Via Aurelio Saffi down to Piazza del Duomo, a setting for occasional outdoor concerts. The interior evolved over the centuries with a mix of Renaissance and Baroque style, with many important works of art featuring sculpture, painting, and beautiful architectural details. Behind the altar are the most important paintings in all of Spoleto, featuring stories of the Virgin, her coronation, the Annunciation, nativity scene, and the death of the Virgin. It's the final masterpiece of Filippo Lippi, who died here while painting these frescoes, buried here in a tomb designed by his son, Filippino Lippi. Pinturicchio painted the Madonna and Child with Saints, and many other artists are represented here, such as Annibale Carracci and Bernini. Next to the cathedral is an attached ecclesiastical building with 2 levels of loggia. The cathedral's front port, or portico, features a geometric tile floor and sturdy columns. The cathedral facade includes statues of bees, the symbol of the Barbarinis, the noble family who promoted the renovation of the Duomo in the 17th century. Departing from the Duomo, we're going to take an extensive walking tour of the historic center of Spoleto, strolling on beautiful lanes through piazzas, enjoying historic monumental sites, and doing a few detours down the side streets as well. Spoleto has so many little lanes and staircases and historic buildings and vistas that you'll probably want to spend a couple of days here. And then once you're in the old town, it's just walking. Everything is walking distance. We're not climbing back up those steps, but going to the right along Via del Duomo. One of the reasons for these picturesque arches was so they can build a house on top of the street, probably connecting 2 houses on opposite sides of the street. So it's functional and beautiful. There's a fork in the road that brings us around to Piazza della Signoria, which provides a lovely view on the town below. Continuing along Via del Duomo, you'll come upon Largo Clementi, a small public space like a little park with lush trees and gentle multi-level steps up the sloping terrace, accessible from the backside as well as from Via del Duomo. It forms one of the few green public spaces in a town where public gardens are rare and the streets are narrow. And there's a hotel here. The 2-star Hotel Pancioli has an excellent location right in the center of the old town. It's just got 7 rooms and a restaurant and a terrace with a view. You could reach it by taxi from the train station, or you could even drive there with your own car. Just around the corner, 1 block away, you'll find a scenic vista. As you walk around the curve in the road, be sure to go over to the side where you get a nice view looking out across the city, down into the newer part of town. Back on Via del Duomo, I came across another staircase street, Via dello Spagna, and happened to stumble into a very amusing family drama. It's the little boy who doesn't want to walk up the steps. No. He's waiting at the bottom, not moving, and realizes nobody's coming to his rescue, so he's got to start climbing, and up he goes. He remembers younger days when he got carried up these hills. He makes it halfway, and then it gets steeper. He's even able to run a little bit, catching up with Mom to ask for some help. No. No. He has put his foot down. He's gone far enough and will not budge. Then he smiles when Mom finally picks him up and carries him away. A kid triumphant with a free ride to the top. Well, he did walk half the way, and he's pretty small, and those steps are pretty big for him. Mom is obviously used to this, so it worked out well for the family. By now, you've noticed that these streets are not crowded. It was amazing to enjoy such a beautiful location in peace and tranquility. Spoleto is just not nearly as well-known a city as the big guns of Tuscany like Florence and Siena. And the other big reason is the time of year. I was visiting in the middle of the month of November. The weather was great. It was a little cool. You put on a sweater or a jacket and you're going to be just fine. It's like walking through a maze where one little path leads onto another. And we soon arrive at the Roman house, Casa Romana. It dates to the beginning of the 1st century, and it was discovered by archaeologists in 1885. Quite amazing to have a Roman house with this quality of preservation still standing. You'll see rooms with barrel-vaulted ceilings made of brick and original floors with mosaic tile patterns. It's believed that this house belonged to the mother of the ancient Roman Emperor Vespasian, who built the Colosseum. The house remained in use continuously all the way up through the early medieval period, when it was probably partially destroyed by a fire and further damaged by some construction in the vicinity. But it has been restored so well you feel like you're walking back 2,000 years into an original Roman house. It's located partially under the town hall, which was first built in the 13th century with its original tower dating to that time. And right next to it, Piazza del Mercato. This place has been the center of town for more than 2,000 years. The Romans established their settlement here in the year 241 BC. And this was the main central square of those ancient Romans. It was their forum, surrounded by temples and palaces and lively activity like shopping, eating, and drinking, and that's still going on today. That might seem to be a Baroque church at the end of the forum, but take a closer look up on the side balcony and you'll see some laundry hanging out. Well, this never was a church, and there are people living upstairs. This is a monument to the powerful Barberini family from Rome. You see the bees up on the facade, the symbol of the Barberinis. All of it designed by Carlo Maderno in 1626. He also designed St. Peter's in Rome. Previously, there had been a Romanesque church on this site, but it fell down in the end of the 16th century. Sometimes the piazza is pretty quiet. It gets taken over by the neighborhood cats who can enjoy their dinner thanks to some nearby caretakers right in the square. People eat here also at the various restaurants and cafes that are around the piazza. A favorite spot here is Caffè degli Artisti. It's a terrific place for a drink. Try the local wine. While Tuscany is famous for its wines like the Brunellos, Chianti, the Super Tuscans, Umbria also produces quality wine. Perhaps have a beer or a spritz. Have a snack, maybe a light lunch, a light meal, and just a fun place to gather, even if you're not buying anything. Sometimes my camera stimulates some friendly conversation with the locals, so put this cafe on your list when you get to Spoleto. Also right here, try Osteria del Matto. Somebody on Yelp said, "Oh my God, if I could eat here every night, I would." So you see, the piazza is a good place to eat and drink. How about fresh pasta with truffles, a local specialty? During the day, the piazza usually has lunch trucks out, and in the morning, there's a produce market. Several nice pedestrian lanes extend out from the market square, including Via del Mercato. There's a gourmet restaurant just beyond the south end of the piazza.
The name of the restaurant is Il Tempio Del Gusto. The food is very typical. We use the ingredients from this area, remake the old recipe in a new way. All the dessert, all the pasta are made in our kitchen. Pasta with truffle, tagliatelle with white truffle. Now we are in the season of white truffle. You can go in the kitchen.
Oh, there he is.
Okay. My husband is...
Fortunately, we are very busy today. White truffle for the summer. Very expensive. Yeah, that one. Appetizer.
Go for it. Okay, arrivederci.
The wine cellar, and we have different kind of wine from Italy, from the north to the south.
The floor had been part of an ancient Roman temple.
Date 1st century before Christ, more or less 2,000 years.
Just beyond, there's an ancient Roman arch, the Arch of Druso and Germanico, dating from the year 23 AD. It's on a busy little street with two-way traffic going right through it. The arch was built in honor of the adopted son of the Emperor Tiberius. It's not the only arch in the neighborhood because just around the corner we've got the Arch of Monterone. It was one of the 5 main gates through the ancient Roman defensive walls, constructed using large stones laid without mortar back in the 3rd century BC, making it one of the oldest structures in Spoleto. This leads us right to the Via delle Felici, which has its own arch leading into the street. There are lots of these street arches in Spoleto. It looks like another narrow pedestrian street, but no, cars can drive right through this little archway. And so can trucks, so watch out for the traffic. Well, these drivers know what they're doing, obviously very experienced at these roads, so they just gun it and speed right along. Another section of the massive ancient defensive wall. These were actually built before the Romans by the Umbri. That was a tribe who settled in this area first and had a thriving culture for many centuries. That's why we call the region Umbria. Via Felici continues on for a few blocks, and there's also a staircase that veers off from it. Like many of the staircases here in this hill town, it's more of a ramp with some steps in it. Makes it easy to go up. It leads to Via Brignone, which has several more arches for pedestrians and cars to go through, leading us back towards Arch of Monterone. A similar pattern of smaller arches is found in many Spoleto streets, connecting buildings and stabilizing them. Piazza Pietro Fontana is situated along Via Brignone, with a lovely fountain in the middle, and Palazzo Mori, built in the late 1600s and now has a public library. It also has the Literary Cafe, open to the public for food and drinks. And you can see a Roman mosaic floor down in the basement. Continuing another block on Brignone brings us to Piazza Libertà. We came from the market square, then down through a couple of arches, and now we're circling back and heading over to Piazza Libertà, the Roman Theater, and Corso Mazzini. Piazza Libertà is one of the main entry points to the historic center because the city buses come from the train station right to this piazza. I'll have suggestions about how to ride the bus later in the program. And there is parking available if you're driving a car. Extending out from that piazza is Corso Mazzini, one of the main pedestrian streets of the city, where you will find the boutique hotel Aurora, where I stayed during my visit. It's affordable with room rates starting just over €100, including breakfast. There are only about 10 hotels in the historic center, and you'll find that Aurora is one of the better ones. Opened in 1957 and recently refurbished. Next to the hotel along Mazzini is a street that leads to the Roman Theater and Archaeological Museum. The theater is still used for performances and plays today, thanks to some renovations and stabilizing work that's been done, with some of the original polychrome marble floor still preserved. You can walk around and through these arcades and tunneled passageways. It's almost like stepping back into ancient Rome itself. The museum has a number of finds that were discovered with the excavations in and around Spoleto and the region, showing some artifacts of the ancient Roman life, sculptures, weapons, and jewelry, inscriptions, vases, household items, tombstones. Display boards and labels help you understand what you're looking at, and you get a nice view looking out the window down at the Roman Theater. Then continuing along Corso Mazzini, a lovely place for a stroll with many shops and some restaurants. Corso Mazzini is quite different than most streets in the old town because it's wide and straight. Generally, the pedestrian lanes are narrow and curved, dating back centuries. But Corso Mazzini was created in the mid-19th century in an effort to make the old town more accessible. It's also delightful to stroll in the evening when locals are out shopping, talking, enjoying their stroll, the passeggiata. We'll be showing you quite a bit of Spoleto at night, as well as during the daytime. The street is named after Giuseppe Mazzini, who was one of the heroes and leaders of the Italian struggle for unification in the mid-19th century. He was one of the founders of the first organized political party in the history of Italy. And of course, the dogs are out on display and passeggiata as well. Here's some doggy cam showing this quintet hustling along with this mistress. The street is just about 250 meters long, so it's quite easy to stroll the entire length, and you might want to walk back and forth. There are some attractive side lanes, quite enjoyable to explore. Turning left on Plinio il Giovanni, they even have some little buses that can navigate these side streets. There is a mix here of some streets that are for pedestrians only, and others that allow some cars but are still easy to walk on. Night and day in the same location, it takes on a different atmosphere, so it's really great to have enough time in your visit to be able to walk around both daytime and in the evening. This former church has been converted into an intimate cinema showhouse. Down at the end of Plinio il Giovanni, we reached the Caffè Colicola on a small piazza of the same name. Across the street is one of the main churches, Chiesa San Domenico, which opened in the 14th century. Continuing a few blocks along Via Giustolo, one of those mixed streets with some cars and yes, even little buses come whizzing through, driving under the old medieval archway. They don't have any sidewalks on these little streets, but it's still quite safe for pedestrians. It brings us to the town's main theater for orchestra and opera, built in the neoclassical style of the mid-19th century. It's named after the composer Giancarlo Menotti, who founded the famous music Festival of Two Worlds in Spoleto in 1958. The busy street extending out from here is Via Filatelia, a route for buses, cars, and pedestrians. You've got a nice tea room here, Tebro, and there's always these little side streets that lead off from the main streets that are intriguing to have a look down. You've been watching an in-depth look at the real Spoleto, getting beyond just the tourist monuments of the churches and the museums, which are practically the only sites that you'll read about in a typical guidebook. In fact, it's hard to find a guidebook that has a lot of useful information about Spoleto. The Umbria guidebooks might have a small chapter that covers the churches, museums, the restaurants, and hotels, but they really don't tell you much about where to walk when you're here and what to see. It's inevitable when you're walking around the city, whether it's day or night, you're going to see groups of kids out having fun. This is a very safe place to be for visitors and locals alike. It's such a small town that we'll be running into this same group of young boys a little bit later playing football in the street.
Good morning.
A friendly greeting and a cheeky goodbye. Like little rascals everywhere. There's a nice view looking down from the top of those same steps. You've noticed there are staircases, ramps, steps, inclined streets that you have to deal with when you're walking around because this is a hill town. They have engineered it very nicely so that it's quite easy to navigate. Now we're walking down those steps and along this very well protected and scenic pedestrian lane, which brings us towards the lower part of town. We've arrived at Piazza Torre dell'Olio, which is named for that great tower looming over the city. In medieval Italy, towers were the skyscrapers of the day. I happened to meet a friendly local guy who works in his tower.
The tower of my father.
Of your family?
My family.
That's his tower.
My father rebuilding.
Restored, yeah.
And this is original.
Oh, well. And what's your name?
Leonardo.
Leonardo. And you're a carpenter.
And I'm a carpenter.
Third generation.
3 generations of carpenter.
So this is Gothic, huh?
Sì, Gothic.
Leonardo invited me into his carpenter's workshop.
Traditional shop. My grandfather.
Oh.
My father, my uncle, my brother.
Wow. How old? 1,000?
800.
800. Okay. Wow.
More height, more power.
I asked him about the street going down from here. And the name of the street again?
Via Porta Fuga.
Via Porta Fuga. Okay. We have reached the last leg of our walk through Upper Spoleto, heading down via Porta Fuga, which has an amazing tale to tell. Remember Hannibal attacking ancient Rome with his army of elephants? Well, he got to this point in Spoleto with a Roman gate and defenses that defeated him and pushed him back and prevented him from attacking Rome and preserving the foundation of Western civilization. Once you pass out through gate of Porta Fuga, you have left the old walled medieval part of Spoleto and down into the more modern section of town, which is still quite old and very lively, usually filled with people on what is the main pedestrian street of Spoleto, Corso Garibaldi, where we are about to spend some quality time taking a stroll along this grand promenade back and forth during the day and into the evening. It is the perfect place for people watching and for shopping and eating. You're going to be walking along the main lane here at a peak time of day, and you'll notice while there are plenty of people out strolling, there do not seem to be any other tourists here except for me who's taking the pictures. So that is quite nice and refreshing in this day and age of over-tourism where those more famous cities get very crowded. But other towns like Spoleto, which are also really quite attractive and a fine destination to visit, just are not crowded with tourists. At this time of year in Italy, the twilight arrives fairly early in the evening, and as that happens, more and more people come out for the stroll. It's the classic passeggiata, the Italian parade of people just strolling along at a leisurely pace, doing a little window shopping. It's a big pastime in Italy. Come on out, dress up, see your friends, say hello, catch up on the latest news. People living in the smaller Italian hill towns do a lot of walking during the day. That's how they'll get around. The streets are largely for pedestrians rather than driving a car, as many people do in the West. And while this walking is not a vigorous exercise, it is a healthy way to get around. And then walking up and down the inclined streets adds another dimension to the benefits. All too often we fly through our lives as if there was no tomorrow in some kind of supersonic speed, but here in Italy, in the evening and the passeggiata, people are not in a hurry. They are going to just slow down and relax. It's a fun way to fill some time after work and before dinner. And while some snack shops and pizzerias are open this early, it's not really a time for dinner yet. That comes afterwards. Store hours can be a little mysterious for the foreign visitor who might want to do some midday shopping to find out that most of the stores are closed for siesta and lunch. And then they reopen and generally stay open till about 8 p.m. The pedestrian town center has a special character with inviting cobblestone lanes and alluring medieval alleys. From the Roman period to the present day, the charm of Spoleto history has seduced visitors through the ages. The passeggiata continues. People are gathering in bigger numbers now as it gets a little bit later. Multi-generations out together. Even the dogs have a chance to say hello. You'll notice that the main goal of this evening ritual is not trying to get from one place to another. It's just to go out and have a chat, take a walk, get out of your small apartment, and say hello to your friends. For the locals, this is just another day. But for the visitor who's paying attention, it's really something quite remarkable that you might not find back in your own hometown. Various conditions helpfully come together to make this ritual possible, such as having an extensive pedestrian zone and a main pedestrian lane, and a community that lives in fairly close proximity to the center of town. The kind of place where people get to know each other. One of the side streets right off this main lane is sometimes converted into a ball field. The whole family comes out and the young kids start kicking the ball around. And one of the unusual sports here is playing tennis with a soccer ball using your feet and your head. They even have several games going at the same time on this one block. What do you call this game?
Tennis football.
Tennis football.
Tennis.
Tennis.
Calcio, tennis.
Calcio, tennis.
Football, calcio, tennis, tennis.
It's a real family activity with the parents sitting around, having a good time and clowning around a little bit. They just take over the cafe tables and the street and turn it into their playground and outdoor living room. These people live right here in the general neighborhood of the old town, right nearby, and there are not that many park areas, green fields for playing soccer, so they make the most of it by turning the street into a ball field. Having a lot of fun, blowing off some steam, and getting in some good practice for the time when they're going to be playing in an actual game. It all seems very casual here, but there's some competition. The young mother's keeping score, and the guys are concentrating to get it in the right hole with high points for the accurate kick. These young lads are on the same team, and that nurtures a social connection that keeps the families and the neighbors joined together with a strong sense of community. And then when the games are over, the parents and coach help to clean up and put the goals back in the truck, and the football stadium once again becomes a side street. We are done with the walking tour of Spoleto, but there are a couple more things to show you. One of Spoleto's most important churches is San Gregorio Maggiore, constructed during the 11th and 12th centuries. Originally built in the Romanesque style, there has been some long-lasting transformations and restorations of the original lines, and renovated in the 16th and 18th centuries, but still it reflects the influence of the Longobarд Romanesque architecture. There's an impressive series of frescoes along a wall on the left aisle depicting the Madonna and Child with several saints, created in the 14th century. 3 arches form the portico of the ancient facade. Now we're heading towards the final monuments of the program. We're walking along Via del Anfiteatro to the old medieval wall that still goes around this part of the town. Its massive size shows this was a fortified wall, and it has slits in it for firing out with your crossbows to repel the enemy in those perilous days of the Middle Ages. Even more amazing here are the remains of the ancient Roman amphitheater. Dates back to the 2nd century AD. The oval structure is a smaller version of the Roman Colosseum. You can see the rough outline in the aerial view from Google Earth. Not open to the public, it has not yet been restored. At the end, I ran into a group of local school kids looking at it on a history field trip. You live in Spoleto?
Yes.
That completes our in-depth look at the beautiful city of Spoleto. And now I'd like to share a few tips with you about how to get here. Easy to reach because it's connected along one of the main lines of the Italian rail system, which is always a comfortable way to travel. Or you could drive a car and you'll find plenty of public parking lots in the city. Some of the nice little towns in Umbria are not connected by train. You have to get there by bus, and that works out okay also. But here, take the train, and when you get out of the train station, you step right in front, and there are shuttle buses that will take you to the old town. In front of the station, there's a huge black sculpture, a stabile by Alexander Calder, with taxis waiting underneath. At the bus stop, you could take a short walk through that front gate of the city and have a look at Piazza della Vittoria, with fountain and benches, a loggia nearby. There's hotels and shops around it. The buses are quite popular and an inexpensive way to travel. It's about a kilometer walk, so it's better to take the bus especially if you have a suitcase, and let the driver do all the work. If you were to walk the 1 kilometer from the station to the old town, it just takes about 10 or 15 minutes, so that's a reasonable walk, but it's not terribly interesting. You just pass by some ordinary modern buildings along the way. So stick with the bus, or you could take a taxi, which would be especially good if you're staying at a small hotel in the middle of the old town, where the buses don't go. While you are in Umbria, there are many more wonderful towns to visit, as you can see in our other movies. So please subscribe to our channel and click that little alarm bell so you'll be notified. And if you enjoyed the movie, how about a thumbs up? And we always welcome comments down below. Or if you have questions about the destination, make note and we'll answer them. Thanks for watching.